The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being here with us tonight, those in the chat room and those listening from around the world. We appreciate each and every one of you. Tonight, so far, our guest has not been able to get a hold of, so we will just be carrying on. Yes, that's the way to do it. And hopefully he might show up here on Skype, and then I can get him in. So until then, though, we're going to have all kinds of things, no matter what we'll talk about. We got with us Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
And we got Barbara Duncan.
I am here.
And if for some reason you're listening from somewhere else around the world and you'd like to come over to the chat room here, it's at paraxradionetwork.com and click on the Chat Now button. It'll put you in with all these wonderful people. You'll be able to interact with them and interact with us. And if you have questions tonight on anything we might be talking about and you don't want to come to the chat room, you can still send us a question to the paranormalview@gmail.com and we will get those answered for you. If you're in the chat room and you got questions, you can send them to either Henry Foister or Ceiling Cat and we will answer them for you. With that, I've had a hectic week, including last weekend too. So we're doing good now. I got my house all painted and everything, so I'm good to go with that. With that, Jeff and Barbara, you guys got anything right now you want to talk about?
Well, I was looking at his bio, and it sounds like Jason's going to be a great guest. I'm kind of, you're a bit tardy on the show. I'm just posting that on his oops, like, he should be here, but he isn't. Okay. He may have his times down, because he's in Missouri.
He's in Missouri, so and that's what I figure.
Yeah.
Even though I said Eastern time, it probably didn't click. A lot of times it don't do that.
Yeah, he does. Oh, wait, he says, I don't have your Skype request. Oh, I guess he thought I was sending it because I posted on this page and you didn't. Says, would you send me your Skype address so I can contact you? I've had trouble with people finding me on Skype recently. But apparently you found him, I guess.
Yes. I assume that this is the right one. He's in Missouri. So let's see. Wait a minute. It says accept. And looks like he is on Skype.
Oh, cool.
So let me let's see here if I can add him into our call. And he's trying to call me. Tell him, send you a quick message.
I'm doing it. We're literally through the post back and forth.
Tell him, don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah. So, all right, here. Let me see what I can do here about.
We shall not have dead air.
He says that's not me and sending him the request. The thing is considering his last name is Offutt, I don't know how it's pronounced, Offutt.
Yeah.
There are like 5 or 6 Jason Offutts on Facebook. I'm like, how is that a common name? I mean, it's a
Apparently it
fascinating
is.
name. I look forward to the etymology of it, but, like, what?
Yeah. One can never know.
Okay, hang on here.
So, accept his request and call him.
Yeah, I did, and I'm fixing to right now. And
I've sent Henry a request, tried to call him, he didn't pick up.
let's see. And-
Internet radio, just that easy.
Yes, it is.
Exactly. It's live too. This is not recorded, folks.
Yes. As opposed to,
As opposed to the people who can't hear it and they have to listen to a Podomatic or something.
yeah.
All right, let's see here who I've got. I got 4 people.
Bridge.
I never learned that. My parents played that game. I never learned it. He says,
I don't have that yet.
Well, that's
I have a feeling a lot less people are playing it nowadays, considering one of its terms. Let's see.
True.
sorry, people, for the delay here, and I'll let Barbara talk while I
Not
try and
as
get this
of
thing
yet,
to work.
he says. He's working on
Hold
it.
on.
Sometimes stuff happens. We're already getting fires up here, Jeff.
Wildfires?
Yeah.
Oh, we were getting rain yesterday and today. Well, not today, but we had. I didn't know about fires up there. Well,
It never got past Monterey, the rain, so
oh.
we are now, Sierra's had a small fire.
Yeah, when I got up in the morning, I came out and everything was coated with a light rain. And then I went out in the afternoon, and then when I got down to Santa Monica Boulevard again, I looked and the clouds were just like, we're going to pour on you. I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. And then it didn't rain. But I took some great photos of these really angry-looking black clouds and
I'm
posted them on Instagram.
Jeff,
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm creating a new group here so I can get him in.
Oh, okay.
So it might cut you guys off, and we'll see if
Okay,
it
we'll
does.
just keep talking.
I sure will, and we'll
Okay.
see what we can do. Wait a minute. It might
Okay.
let me add him back in here now. Let's see here.
Because dead air is a bad thing.
Done.
Yeah.
We don't
Even
like
though we
that.
talk
so
about the dead all the time.
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, technically we do dead air. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Air the dead. That's what we do EVPs. That's airing the dead.
Airing the dead, yeah.
Okay. He says okay to that.
All right. Well, I just did that, and it says create a new or add the group.
Oh, there. That sounds more
Add the group.
promising.
Yeah. Nope.
Nope. There's a weird little square that says call layout. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
No. Not it.
Okay, so there's add people to the call.
Yeah.
Oh, I
did
don't have him in here, so I wouldn't be able to.
Well, I did. I added, and it's not bringing it up.
Because he's live. It says one mutual connection, which I'm presuming is you, Henry.
Yeah.
So add. Let's see what happens now. It looks like it's saying it's ringing. This is cool. This is an experiment, and I guess we may have Jason on the line.
Yeah, you might.
I don't know how Jeff did that, but
I don't know either, considering Skype is so weird lately. So with the 18th update, that's just bizarre.
I've been having
Skype
a lot of
miracle.
trouble with Skype recently. There are more than one Jason Offutt on there, and it seems like everybody goes to the wrong one.
well, apparently so.
There are like 5 or 8 Jason Offutts. I don't even know how to pronounce your name
Offutt.
on Facebook. It took me a while just to find the right one of you.
Well, I've clicked on the one that said Missouri. So,
Yeah, that's the one I chose. And
yeah, if there's more than that, then I don't know about it. But anyway, we've got you on, and want to welcome you. We got with us Barbara Duncan,
Hello, Barbara.
Hi, Jason.
and we got Jeffrey Gould.
hello.
And since you're already on, we're going to go ahead and introduce you, right, Jeff? You got his bio?
I could have done the bio when he was off. But now, is it pronounced Offutt? How is it pronounced?
Offutt.
Offutt. Okay. Like Moffat without the M.
Exactly.
Okay, well, in his life, Jason Offutt has been a farmhand, journalist, photographer, bartender, and the mayor of his small hometown of Orrick, Missouri. Currently, Jason teaches journalism at Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville and keeps the world safe from the forces of evil. He's a self-described nerd, Dungeons and Dragon playing, yay, Star Trek and Twilight Zone watching, conspiracy theory fanboy, and as a kid, Jason sought out Sasquatch footprints in his yard. UFOs over the family farmhouse one afternoon alone. Jason saw a full-bodied apparition that through hollowed eyes stared at him. And he's a multi-book author on local ghosts, haunting, and shadow people. So welcome, Jason Offutt.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I feel bad it took so much trouble.
Nah, well, ever since Skype updated to this new, I have all kinds of problems with it. So you're not the first.
Okay.
But I do want to thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. Going through the book, there is a lot.
Say the title, Henry.
Oh, I'm sorry. The book is Chasing American Monsters by Jason Offutt. And the thing is there's a lot of states, because you go through each state and list some of the monsters that's in that state. And there's a lot of the states that has a lot of pterodactyls, Bigfoots, vampires, giants, werewolves, dinosaurs, and lake monsters. But there's also a lot of states that has all kinds of other different monsters. And because there's so many states and so many monsters, I doubt if we get to talk about each state. But I figure we can go. Yeah, we can go through some of the states and pick out some of the, I guess, lesser known type of ones and talk about it.
Can we start off first by talking? I was unaware there were so many dinosaur sightings.
Right. No, that's an extremely common one. I'll even, at least for now, leave off the pterodactyl sightings, because there are dinosaur sightings in Nebraska, Colorado, down in the American Southwest, Texas, Oklahoma. They're fairly widespread, and this is one of my hopes as a kid. Like I think almost every kid was fascinated by dinosaurs. And man, wouldn't it be cool to have some species of dinosaurs still running around?
Well, it depends on which ones. I wouldn't mind an ankylosaurus or something, but you run into a raptor, then it's like, oops.
Well, I think about any of them will be a problem. And a patasaurus looks nice and friendly, but they can step on people.
Yeah,
big time. Yeah,
there's a lot of these like that I've never even heard of that people had been seeing something like this.
Like what?
Well, there are
woolly mammoths in Alaska.
Well, yeah, there was. Well, we're getting away from dinosaurs already. That's okay. We'll come back.
I look at it as
extinct creatures.
Animals. Yeah.
Right. Well, this was in the 1800s. Of course, there were a lot of fanciful things in newspapers in the 1800s. We had, from the 1830s, we had the penny press that specialized in the sexy, most violent things that they could possibly put in a newspaper. They would. When the telegraph was invented in, I think it was 1844, most people didn't believe it because it was in the newspaper. That's kind of how bad newspapers were at that point. And then of course we had the yellow journalism in the late 1800s. But after the Pulitzer-Hearst newspaper battle started the Spanish-American War, the newspaper industry took a step back and said, "We've got to put a stop to this."
Maybe we should be a little more objective.
Exactly, and that's what they started doing. They started printing the truth. But this story of the living mammoths is kind of right at that bridge area between the two eras. But anyway, there's a military colonel, C.F. Fowler, who was in Alaska, not for military exercise, but he was looking for fossilized mammoth tusks. And when the local Inuits, would show him these tusks, this one time they showed him these tusks and they still had blood on the base of them. And he asked about it, and the hunters came in and explained that they had tracked this group of enormous, furry animals with the big tusks and, the trunk, and they would trumpet whenever they were threatened, and they followed him like 50 miles and through the snow and finally killed one of them. So and it was in newspapers all around the country. That was one expedition that had that had not just sighted a woolly mammoth that had survived, but possibly killed it. And it's not that. Let's think about this for a second. Woolly mammoths, the last ones that died off, the last ones that were alive were I think 1300 BC. Mm-hmm. And that was a small population on Wrangel Island, off the coast of Russia. And that was the last known population that we know of that was still alive. The pyramids of Giza were 2,000 years old by that point. Right. And mammoths were still alive. Yeah. So, given the terrain that they live in and looking at how sparsely populated, northern Canada and the Siberia area of Russia is, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually found some, not just them, but some other, Pliocene, megafauna like, woolly rhinos or saber-toothed cats or something like that.
Well, we found coelacanths, and that's pretty
gosh.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. The coelacanth was well known to science, and but it was one of those from the era of the dinosaurs that died out 65 million years ago. And then in 1936, off the coast of South Africa, a fishing boat pulled this fish up, and the captain didn't know what it was, and got a hold of the one of the scientists at a museum in South Africa, and she went and looked, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is a coelacanth," and they found a population, a breeding population off the coast of South Africa, and there's also one off in off the coast or around Indonesia. So this is something that cryptozoologists latch onto, and they damn well should. That something that had been dead for 65 million years wasn't. And one of the things, and I'll beat this drum all day long, the local fishermen knew about it. And they, would sell it, and people would eat it. It was us, the stupid Westerners, the Europeans that didn't believe it when they heard stories of this type of fish, and they didn't believe it until they saw it. There are so many cases of animals out there that Europeans didn't think exist until they saw it themselves, but the locals did.
Well, not to mention, what was it that they just found not that long ago? It was off the Siberian tundra, which is now thawing out. A horse that still had the blood in it, that they could actually, once they warmed it up, could withdraw it. It was still there. The stomach contents were still there. The DNA was intact.
And what kind of horse?
So, it's just a little tiny horse, probably a predecessor to the
like a
to the
Eohippus?
modern ones. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, and well, they found, and this is really weird for us to think about, but it happened. Is that horse predecessor was flash frozen, and they found woolly mammoths that had been flash frozen, and other species from that era, and it's like, yeah, they were alive one second, and the next second they were dead and completely frozen, and you're right, they could tell what the last meal was. I believe in one of the woolly mammoth carcasses, they found plants, in between its teeth that was still eating when it got flash frozen, and there are geneticists in Russia and Japan who've been working for years, and they're getting closer on being able to grow these ancient extinct animals because they still have living counterparts, living descendants. The Asian elephant is the closest living descendant of a woolly mammoth, and of course the woolly rhino. We still have a few rhinos left, but they're thinking of raising bringing these things back from extinction. And I don't care what Jurassic Park showed us. I'm cool with bringing some of these things back.
Yeah, really.
I think it would be nice to have woolly mammoth around.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And if you raise them, I mean, if they have the same temperament as modern elephants, a lot of modern elephants, they remember faces, both human and fellow elephants, for decades.
It's amazing how smart an elephant is. Really is.
Oh, there's also what I was bringing up, in Antarctica. Now that's thawing out, they found lakes, submerged lakes that have sharks, almost prehistoric sharks.
Not megalodon, I hope.
Nothing that big, but wouldn't that be wild?
Well, there was a photo recently I saw of I don't remember how big the shark was, but a fisherman had pulled up this shark out of the water, and it had been bitten, and it had part of it was ripped off by something that was a lot bigger than it was.
There's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, there's always a bigger fish. Exactly. Well, and there was one recently, and this is what gives me hope for large, large cryptids to be found. There are approximately 18,000 on average new species discovered every year.
Well, just in Brazil, all they have to do is put a tarp under a tree, blow smoke in it, and then they find 18 or 37 new species of insect that never been discovered before.
Well, generally they are insects, small things, maybe some birds, maybe small primates or rodents, but occasionally they'll find something bigger. A couple of years ago, they found a new species of orangutan. That's not a small creature.
No,
right.
Right, and so there are some creatures that have been fairly big that have been found in recent history. And you were talking about sharks. I think it was in 76 or 77. The megamouth, I think it was pretty sure 77. The megamouth shark was discovered, still alive. It was one of the prehistoric sharks that was considered dead, but they found it. And here's this 18-foot long shark that hey, it's swimming our ocean. It's not a Jaws shark. It feeds off plankton, but still 18 feet. That's a big fish.
Well, there's a shark. I read something recently about a shark that one of the ones intended just eat plankton, but it had been alive since like the 1700s.
Oh, the one shark. Yes, yeah. These things also live for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are just some small examples of a big pool, something that has that really has implications in the cryptozoology realm is the Billy Ape, and that's B-I-L-I. It's an African ape. I believe it's in the Republic of the Congo, and this is one of those things that the locals have talked about for years. Who've said, yes, there's a large ape that walks predominantly on 2 feet. It's huge. It looks like a chimpanzee, but it behaves like a gorilla. It howls at the moon, and it kills and eats lions. And, of course, that all sounded ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Until it was discovered. 1998, the Billy Ape was discovered. And by Western science, and it's a really, really large chimpanzee. It makes nests like a gorilla, sleeps on the the floor, the jungle floor, but it howls at the moon, and it's known to kill leopards and lions and eat them. Wow! So all of these stories that we hear about about Sasquatch and about the Wampus cat and the White Fang in Alabama. These things could definitely be real, or dinosaurs in Colorado. People have reported seeing 6-7 foot tall miniature T-Rexes running around in Colorado.
Now, has that been recently?
The Valley of Wanji.
Has that been
Valley
recent?
of the Guanji was great.
I love that movie. I'm a huge Ray Harryhausen fan. So.
Oh yeah, Ray Harryhausen was brilliant. Yeah, I loved his work.
So has that been recently that they've been spotted?
The T-Rexes, I think, was 80s or 90s.
I wonder why it don't get publicized so much.
Because and this is one of the things. Dinosaurs don't exist anymore because except for for fossils, according to science, because nobody's brought in a dead one to show them
Or a live one.
Or a live one. Until somebody brings in a live one or one that's been recently killed, it's fanciful. Nobody's going to believe it. Because according to science, 65 million years ago, the last dinosaurs, were destroyed. I mean that's what scientists base their careers on. So, we're not going to take this and, change all the work that we've done just on a few stories. They're not even going to go out and look for it.
Right.
Well, they changed Pluto. They downgraded Pluto and gave it a demotion. So you never know what science is going to do next.
Right. And I'm big on science. I'm when it comes to anything in the paranormal realm, I want to look at the scientific rationale first before I go, take that step into, maybe it's something, paranormal. But
well, that too. I admin the Facebook Paranormal View page, and when I find interesting like stuff on ghosts and hauntings and stuff, obviously I post that. But if I find something cool and sciencey like space and not just UFOs, but they're now working on using spinach as to work as like replacement tissue on heart operations.
Wow, that's
I just
amazing.
posted that article today.
I will have to go and read that. I love spinach.
As do I. Which is why when the article mentioned yucky, I put SIC.
Well, there's also science that has developed a kale that tastes like bacon.
Kale,
Okay,
Seaweed. It was seaweed that tastes like bacon, and it has the same nutritional value as kale.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it had the same nutritional value as bacon.
No. It's seaweed that tastes like bacon.
Simply make it more awesome.
Which would make it really awesome.
Well, and I don't mean to, step on science's toes or to. I look there first, and one of the cool things about working at a university, teaching here is that my colleagues are scientists. I work in the journalism department, but I've got friends over in the in the sciences, and they're really interested in time travel and ghosts and things of this nature, and they want to be the ones to discover them. And I want them
got
to
the cool
as well.
Scientists over there.
Yeah, we got the cool ones here.
Wow.
And I think a lot of scientists out there are the cool ones. They just don't want to wreck their reputation by coming out in public and saying it.
Well, that's true. Well, time travel is one of my favorite topics, and I know people are still trying to wrap their heads around certain aspects of Endgame, and I'm like, well, it works in my head because of the way I look at time travel. But
I didn't have a problem with any of it at all.
Exactly, because just alternate dimensions and timelines, and because I grew up with Doctor Who.
I hope this doesn't ruin our relationship that we're having right now. But I never quite got into Doctor Who.
Well, that's different than hating Doctor Who. Just not getting into it is something else.
Yeah.
The trick behind that, Jeff, is to find the right doctor.
This is true.
Yeah.
I tried the guy with the the scarf.
Oh, Tom Baker, one of the top best. Well, you should probably start out with the modern version, and maybe the classic era was too, pardon the expression, cheesy for you. Although the cheesiness was part of its charm. If they did the same level with Americans.
I grew up watching Lost in Space, and the great what was it, the episode, The Great Vegetable War or something like that.
Where Jonathan Smith, where Smith had turned into a celery or something.
Something like that, and I can do cheesy.
That's perfectly fine. Well, I tell you, if you can find online, and I'm pretty sure there is, maybe I'll if I'll find it, I'll post it to your thing. There's an episode called Blink, which is probably the best introduction to the modern era of Doctor Who because it barely has the Doctor in it. It's what's called one of the Doctor Who light episodes, where because of the schedule, they would write an episode that revolved around either other companions or other stuff. So this is all from the perspective of a girl who has no knowledge of the Doctor or of his adventures or anything. So it's from almost like outside the show. So plus it's one of the best episodes, and nobody expected it to be. They just figured, it'll be okay. And yet it's heralded as one of the best stories of the new series. So I'll find that and post it on your page there. And
please do. A lot of people I respect, whose opinion I respect, really love Doctor Who. I'm willing to give it another shot.
Well, I'm with you. I'm not a Doctor Who fan. Never have watched it. Just not my thing. And a lot of the paranormal shows I don't watch.
I watch a lot of the paranormal shows because they're silly.
Well,
right. I think the last paranormal show I really loved was In Search of with Leonard Nimoy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's good. Mm-hmm. I liked him.
Yeah, well, it was done documentary style, and they actually went and interviewed experts, and it was extremely well done. And one of the problems that I have with a lot of the paranormal shows, be it Bigfoot or Ancient Aliens or the ghost hunting shows, is the fact that they encounter things. No way in hell are they going to encounter anything with all of the cameras.
Yep.
And the sound guys and all of that stuff. They're not going to encounter anything at all.
Not like that. Yeah.
That's my problem.
No. And I've never been, I have a camera, but I've never just taken pictures, never caught anything on it. So I don't even hardly ever even use one. I'll use my recorder, and that's pretty much about it.
Well, and with cameras, and here's the deal that people get really annoyed with me for talking about when it comes to photographic evidence and audio evidence. Generally, a lot of times, it doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter if you flat out catch the ghost of Elvis Presley. All right, and if you've got a picture of Elvis and you've got the audio going, "Hey, thank you very much." If you've got that, it doesn't matter, because if science wasn't there, if credentialed scientists weren't there doing it, and they can't repeat the results the next day, it's not going to count. In the overall scope of things.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
That's the thing. You got to replicate the experiment, and
Right, and again, I am not cracking on scientists. I absolutely, totally respect the scientific method, but when it comes to anything paranormal, man, we've got to have a Bigfoot body. We've got to have, a nuts and bolts UFOs sitting in a lab someplace that's not.
Well, it kind of is. So they just won't let us in this without shooting us.
Right. I do. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, but but anyway, that's my point. We've got to have something solid.
Yeah, as long as it's not really just folded up and put in a cooler, then we just need a good Sasquatch.
No, right. Oh God. Yeah, let's talk about Tom Biscardi. No, let's don't. This is something. Okay, me being a media guy, I was a newspaper editor for 17 years, and I was, I've been teaching journalism for 14, and I still, whenever I do my paranormal books or any of my nonfiction, I go out there as a journalist and do things the right way, and whenever something splashy happens and somebody like Tom Biscardi claims to have a Bigfoot in a freezer, and it turns out to be a costume with pig guts hanging out of it, seriously, that ruins things.
Well, sure
for
it does. Everybody. It does.
Because, it turns
Plus, it
everything
makes you want to
into a
smack
joke.
them.
Puts a bad taste in people's mouth. Yep.
Right.
Just more fakes.
So
they
people
keep
out
saying,
there
well, they're
who've
all
actually encountered Bigfoot, and there are tons of people out there who've actually encountered Bigfoot. because I think when on the cryptozoology realm in North America, if anything is real and science is going to find it, it's probably the big hairy guy. But of all these people who genuinely saw something, the Tom Biscardi and other people like him, their antics make them look silly.
That's right. It does. And it puts a damper on legitimate people.
Okay, now let me throw up a bomb in here, which is when we walk through houses, etc., we leave DNA evidence. So what do you say to people who are out there, they see big feet, they see a lot of other types of cryptids, but there's no DNA evidence left? I mean, we leave it every time we walk into the bathroom.
Right.
Or, wash dishes or drink out of a cup.
And here is a problem. Again, if people, credentialed people, are out there in the right protective gear with gloves and they've got the sterilized bags and tweezers and whatever, they're going to get something. But the average person out there who's trying to collect DNA, oh, there's a Bigfoot turd, let's put that in a Ziploc bag. That or hair or blood or something. Yeah, that's the problem. Is beard hair or skin cells or anything off of your breath is going. If you breathe on it, your DNA is going to be left on it, and that sample will be, it'll be ruined. Yeah, so that's a problem. However, when it comes to Bigfoot DNA, I'm really, I don't know. I'm really not knowing what to think here. I'm trying to figure this out in my own head, because there have been 3 cases within the last number of years. Within the 2000s. Dr. Melba Ketchum, you all familiar with her?
No.
She's okay. Well, she's had she's a professor, or she's a PhD, and she's wants to prove Bigfoot is real, and she's been conducting searches, and she's got what she thinks is genuine Bigfoot DNA. You know what? I'm going to trust her on that. She had it analyzed at a couple of different places. And it's hard to find some place, because if they say, okay, what animal are we looking for? Well, you're looking for Bigfoot. I don't want to touch this. Please take your scat and go away. But some places did analyze it, and what it came up with was human DNA, but there were some anomalies they couldn't quite place. Now, just
interesting.
Just one, just her. I wouldn't have thought much about it, because it was just one example, but there was another similar person, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, in Alberta, Canada, and he had what he claimed to be Bigfoot DNA. He was positive, and it turned out to be the analysis human, but there were some anomalies in it. Then there was have you all heard of the case of Zana, the Russian Alma? Back in the 40s, 50s, something like that, in a small village in Russia, they captured a female Alma, which is their wild woman. It was a big, really strong, hair-covered female. So basically, the Russian Bigfoot, and they trained this wild creature to carry heavy things because it was so strong. But the townsmen mated with her, and she had a number of offspring that were human enough to talk and things like that. They, although their heads looked a little Neanderthalish, but anyway, a British scientist from, I can't remember if it's Cambridge or Oxford, took DNA from Zana's grandchildren and analyzed it, and it came out human with some anomalies. So we've got these 3 Bigfoot and Bigfoot-ish DNA samples that came out human, but not quite. Now, Native Americans or First Nations up in Canada, they've claimed forever that what we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch is another tribe of humans. They're just big and hairy, and sometimes steal and eat their children, but they're still human. And given these DNA samples that turned out to be human but not quite, wow, maybe they're relatives of ours who we don't invite to, family reunions.
Well, it said that Neanderthals were a lot smarter than people initially used to think. They used to think that they may have been far more advanced, and the fact Cro-Magnon came along and wiped them out because they were more violent. And Neanderthals may have been more peaceful, like, why are you killing us?
Well, yeah, because Cro-Magnon is us, and, we're not nice people. We're not nice.
No.
I can definitely see us killing the Neanderthals, and they interbred with them also and kind of killed them out that way as well.
Oh, they almost genetically bred them out of existence as well?
Yeah, that is, well, not just killing them. We Homo sapiens tend to kill people in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Rabbit Fence with Kenneth Branagh?
No,
Oh, that's a creepy movie. It's about the geneticist in turn of last century's Australia, who was literally came up with a thing to breed the Aborigines out of existence.
Okay, yeah, I can. If the British Empire, as it was back in the day when it controlled a quarter of the earth, if that had lasted until today, I could see them doing that. No offense, British friends.
Well, now,
so have you read the news about the Indian Army finding what they think are Yeti footprints? And what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, I would be all for that, but I'm really dubious about just finding footprints because, I know the footprints look pretty neat, but, snow, sun comes up, snow melts.
Melts a little bit, makes it bigger.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's, I unless they saw what was making the footprints, I'm not, buying that was a Yeti at all.
Wow.
Although I'm all for Yeti. I need a bumper sticker that says that.
Now, your book, you did an awful lot of research for each state to be able to get all this because with each state, you not only just talk about the creatures, but you also talk about the state. You give the size and all sorts of different details about it, and then you list some of them. So, which one of these creatures was probably your favorite?
Oh, geez, that's a really tough question. They're all like my children. No, my children aren't that well behaved. No, they're not like my kids. Well, let's throw the word favorite out there and let me put a couple of degrees on it.
Fascinating, then.
My favorite that could be discovered. Bigfoot. Yeah, I definitely mentioned that. The one I'm fascinated by. A couple of them. I mentioned the White Fang, and it's Thang. That's why I keep saying it like that.
The White Fang, and that is in Alabama.
And it's been described as a couple of different things, but one of the descriptions, the reason it's one of my favorites is it's described as having short legs, a long body, a long tail, like a lion that's tufted on the end, and a sort of a cat-like head, but not with cat-like ears, and it's all white. And it climbs trees and it slinks through the bushes and might allegedly kill small livestock, like chickens or things like that, and maybe a cat or a small dog or two, but it won't attack people. The reason that fascinates me is two different people in the town where I live just having a chat. One of them I worked with, and the other one I just met randomly. And she found out that I write about these things, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I saw this one thing once when I was taking a walk." And both of them describe the Alabama White Fang. So I'm kind of fascinated by that, just because two people that I knew saw the same thing as it was described, many states away from Alabama.
And that's been recent times that it's been seen?
That's within the last 10 years for both of those. The other one I'm fascinated by is Dogman.
Dogman. Mm-hmm.
Dogman. Now, as you know, for the listeners who may not have heard of Dogman, it's often described as sometimes a werewolf-looking creature. Your typical Lon Chaney-looking werewolf, Chaney Jr., excuse me, or it's been described as just looking like a dog that walks on on its hind legs. The reason that I'm kind of fascinated by it is I've talked to people from Wisconsin and Michigan.
They have it in
Illinois,
Ohio too. They have them in Ohio too.
In Ohio, it's just there are so many cases, and this is something that the Native Americans have talked about, not as much as Bigfoot, but they have talked about this. And I'm still, would be on the fence of, completely, laughing this off, except for the fact that a friend of mine who has never jerked my chain, this guy would not lie to me. He told me with as straight a face as he has ever told me anything, an encounter that he had with one of these. He and a friend of his were in central Missouri. There's this cemetery they like to go to. It's off of a rural highway, just north of a really small town called Brunswick, and it's off the highway on a dirt road. And there are all sorts of legends about this. There was a big ghost story about this abandoned house at the corner. But anyway, there's a dirt road that goes up and down a couple of hills to this cemetery that's on top of a hill and surrounded by woods and cow pastures. And this guy and a group of friends used to go up there all the time because they noticed something weird about the cemetery. They started mapping it. And they noticed sometimes when they went back, the tombstones and the trees would be in different places. I mean, they all have the same names on the tombstones and everything. That wouldn't change, but the stones themselves would be in different spots.
Wow.
Okay, don't laugh. I've been to cemeteries before, and one particularly I go to constantly, and that's happened, where you drive down there and go, wait a minute, that wasn't there before. It happens.
But it's
there's something strange and powerful going on in a place like that, right?
Going through time slips and alternate dimensions. And
something happens in cemeteries, I'm not sure.
And one night they went up there, and it didn't. I mean, everything was the same as what it was the last time they'd been up. So they decided, after a while, nothing was happening. They wanted to go back to town, and they had the windows down on the pickup, and they drove down one of the hills, up a hill, and then back down another. And there was a dog, a really big dog, in the middle of the road, and it looked like it was eating something. So they stopped about 20 feet away from it and just waited. They figured the lights and the engine would get the dog's attention, and it would move, but it didn't. They could smell wet dog coming through the window, the open windows. And finally they got tired of waiting, and they honked the horn, and the dog turned its head and looked at them, and the light glowed yellow in its eyes. The headlights glowed yellow, and the thing stood up on its hind legs and stared them down as it walked into the trees on the side of the road and disappeared into the woods. And these two guys rolled up their windows, locked the doors, and got the heck out of there. And it was that story. I've talked to other people, but this guy again, I trust him, and he was shaken when he told me that story.
So they were sort of like the Howling kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it from the movie The Howling. You bet. That's what it looked like.
Wow. I hate to say it, but we've done kind of like didn't take our first break, so we'll do a quick little break right now, and it'll only be just a few minutes, and then we'll be right back. So you may hear the commercials, you may not hear the commercials, but
Most likely not.
Your microphone will be live, so just don't say anything or else mute it here. And you'll hear us when we come back if you don't hear the commercials. But it's only going to be just a few minutes, and we'll be right back. And I'm going to let Jeff take us out.
Yes. Well, tonight you were listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com with hosts Henry Foister, Ceiling Cat, Barbara Duncan, and myself, Jeffrey Gould, with tonight's awesome guest, Jason Offutt. And so stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para-X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Those here in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. And if you do have questions, you can take and send a question to H. Foister or Ceiling Cat, and we will get those answered for you. Right now we have with us Barbara Duncan.
I'm still here.
And Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
And we have our great guest with us, Jason Offutt.
I also believe I'm still here.
Yep, everybody's still here. But we do have listeners from someplace else, too, do we not, Barbara?
Yep, and tonight they're all over the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, unknown, and Australia.
Oh, my British comment's going to get me in trouble, isn't it?
Probably
You're
more
gonna-
like
you're
not
gonna
watching
get-
Doctor
yeah.
Who than anything else.
That's
You'll be getting emails. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I loved Red Dwarf. That'll get me out of trouble.
Ironically, I wanted to get into Red Dwarf. I watched about 3 or 4 episodes, and it just I didn't connect with it.
It
Which
was
is weird
hysterical.
because some of it, yeah.
It was funny.
It wasn't unfunny. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
One of my favorite older type of British TV shows that's not Monty Python, which will always be the king, is The Young Ones. It only lasted for a couple of seasons in the 80s.
Oh, yes.
Sounds familiar.
Oh, Vivian was hysterical.
Yes, Vivian was hysterical. They were all funny, except Mike. Mike, not so much.
Mike wasn't funny, but Vivian was hysterical.
Yeah.
But what I loved about Red Dwarf, and because it goes back to cryptozoology, is the fact that cats evolved.
Right? Yeah, the cat evolved.
Yeah, well, we have a BritBox, so we watch a lot of their comedies and detective shows and all that. We like those. They're pretty good.
Okay, the British people love us now. Thank you.
One of my favorite Britcoms was Good Neighbors, which was a very young Brian. His name was in my head, now it disappeared.
That was with Felicity Kindle, right?
Yes, who I had a huge crush on. But Brian, oh no. And he's been in a lot of Kenneth Branagh's Shakespeare films. Oh, that's going to kill me now. Brian.
Brian and Shakespeare. Brian Breathed?
Brian Blessed.
Not Brian Blessed.
Okay, that's the only Brian I can think of.
Brian Blessed was in Flash, wasn't he?
Yes, he was in Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon.
I could listen to him say anything. He's great.
Absolutely. Good Neighbors.
As we go completely off topic.
Richard Briers. I was close.
Jeff.
Richard Briers. I got the last name confused. It's Briers. Richard Briers.
Jeff.
Yes.
We're talking with Jason Offutt about his new book, Chasing American Monsters.
I knew that. I just want to clarify that.
Critters.
Now, I notice, and and I had some, because I went through and listed some of them from every state, and I had some, that I circled that I hadn't heard before or wanted to find out exactly what they really were. And you have one from Georgia called Hogzilla.
Right, that's one that exists or existed. There is growing up in Missouri, I really didn't know this was a problem, but I guess in the South it's a huge problem. They have a huge problem with feral hogs. And we raised hogs on the farm that I grew up in, and they are really dangerous. Hogs account for a number of farmer deaths every year because a farmer will fall down in the pig pen and they will be eaten.
Oh yeah, well the hogs, when you get on them farms, them hogs are huge, and they weigh an awful lot, so they can knock you down easily. And if you got 3 or 4 of them in there, they can trample you and kill you and eat you.
We had a Duroc boar that was 450 pounds.
Yeah.
That was a huge animal. But in 2004, a hunter named Chris Griffin shot a wild hog, and he claimed it was 1,000 pounds, and it wasn't. It was only 800 plus.
No, it's not really 1,000. Yeah.
Only. Yeah. And there's a picture online of this thing, and it's just absolutely enormous. Again, hogs are extremely dangerous. They're cute as piglets, but that's about it. They're also delicious. But this thing, he needed a high loader, a big a big piece of construction equipment to lift the thing. And National Geographic did the DNA testing. They were in charge of that because the hog was so enormous, and they discovered that it was it was a crossbreed between a domestic pig and a wild boar. And yeah, it was huge. And those things are, roaming the woods in places like Georgia and Alabama and Texas.
That's wild boar, so I'm sure they can get really big. And don't they a lot of times?
I'm wondering if pigs, if a lot of animals are like like fish, that you've seen goldfish, and if you throw goldfish in a lake, those things get enormous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they grow to the size of their environment.
Right, and that the woolly mammoths on Wrangell Island that I was talking about, they grew to the size of their environment also, which was an island, a small island, so they were tiny. They were pretty small woolly mammoths. So yeah, hogs, I doubt that this is the biggest one out there.
Probably not. No. Well, don't they run a lot of times in packs out in the wild like that?
Oh yeah, they're not they're not solitary animals whatsoever. Let's hope this doesn't happen to sheep.
Oh.
You ever see the movie Black Sheep, the Australian?
Oh, the New Zealand. It was a New Zealand movie. Heck
Yeah.
yes. That was terrific.
Well, now in California, I noticed they've got some that's out there. Barbara probably has even heard about them, but there's one called Patty and one called the Bill Whack Monster.
Well, the Patty is the most probably well-known monster in the book. Or probably the most well-known monster in the United States. This was called Patty after Roger Patterson and a friend of his, Bob Gimlin, in 1967, took horses out to Bluff Creek, California, which is about 25 miles south of, or maybe not that far. It's 20-some miles away from Oregon. It's really high up there in California. And this is really this oh God, let me go. This is one of the hardest Bigfoot pieces of evidence to like, but it's also the easiest. Let's go with why it's the hardest. Roger Patterson was kind of a con man. He was a cowboy, but he also was looking for a quick buck any time. And he told his friend Bob Gimlin, he's like, this Bigfoot thing everybody's talking about has been seen, at Bluff Creek. Let's get a movie camera and go up there and get a picture of this Bigfoot thing. So they did. And they shot a movie of it. Mm-hmm. And there's a movie of this female Sasquatch walking down a dry creek bed, turning around to look at them, and then keep walking out in the woods. It's all a casual thing. The movie hit the world, like a punch in the face. Let's look at this thing. This is real. But, and then people were questioning it because of, Patterson being a huckster. And this whole thing coming out a little bit too easily for them. But then again, look at the video. I'm sure you all have seen the video. There's muscle definition in the leg of this creature. It's got breasts. It's a female. The people have tried to recreate it, and human beings don't walk like this creature was walking. Mm-hmm. So as much as, as a hoax as it seems like, it doesn't look like a hoax. Because from 1967, look at all the gorilla costumes used in TV shows and movies.
Right.
Yeah, they're pretty ridiculous.
A lot of them is.
Yeah. This wasn't ridiculous. This looked like it could have been an actual creature. So yeah, that's Patty. Roger Patterson died of cancer. I don't remember, back in the 90s, maybe 80s, maybe. Bob Giblin's still around, and he goes to Bigfoot conferences and talks about his experience. So I haven't had the pleasure of talking with him, but people I have talked with have said that he seems pretty genuine.
Wow.
What are your all's thoughts? Because you all have seen it. Actually, Patterson
absolutely.
died in 1972. I just noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's even a YouTube. I haven't seen it yet, but I was just doing the link for the page. But YouTube apparently has a video stabilized version of it. So I'm gonna take a look at that and post it. Because that's I haven't seen one that's been footage stabilized. That should be interesting.
But it's kind of interesting, the fact that, it's blurry, so it's really difficult. But having seen Planet of the Apes, which came out after that, and if you talk to the costumers who were on that movie, how difficult it was to make those costumes to begin with. So either he had an incredibly good costume maker working for him that he could hold to secrecy. I'm not sure how he made that costume.
Right.
So
well,
realistic.
and the costume, the costumes on because that's one of my all-time favorite movies, the 1968 Planet of the Apes movie, mm-hmm. and the costumes were, the heads and the hands. They wore clothes.
Exactly.
Otherwise, and they had to spend hours in a makeup chair, and the ape faces were so gentle. They couldn't eat, and the only thing they could drink was through a straw. And Patty was the full body, and again, you can see muscles in the legs, which looking at Planet of the Apes, and that was the best makeup at that time. That is the best costuming, and they couldn't have done the muscle definition in legs.
Wow.
Yeah, and had it walk very well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed. If it's a fake, it's a really well done one. I'm just not sure how he could have done it, especially at the time it was made.
Right, and they were fairly broke at the time too. I don't know where he could have gotten the money for it. I mean, the camera that he rented, he didn't even return it.
Yeah, Kat in the chat room said someone would have come forward by now as the costume creator, assuming it was even possible fake.
Well, people have, but they haven't had any evidence. There was even somebody who came out and said that I'm the guy in the suit, but there wasn't any evidence to prove that.
Right.
again, there have been a number of different groups of people who've gone out there and tried to recreate it, and they've never been able to make anything that looked even close to real as real as that.
Wow. You got another one in California. I wouldn't want to run up against any of them, but it's giant cockroaches.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There are a lot of stories in here. I'm like scratching my head about, but the woman I spoke with about this was really pretty serious. She was driving she was from Texas. She was going to California, and she stopped. It was late at night. She needed a motel, and this was in the late 1990s. She stopped at this motel that's not there anymore. It was one of those old-fashioned ones.
Roadside jobs, yeah.
Do what?
One of those roadside jobs.
Yeah, one of the roadside. The rooms were kind of small, doors on the outside. This one had a hallway in the middle, and so that had two doors. Had one to the outside, one to the hallway on the inside. But she got there to sleep, and she was laying down in bed trying to relax, and there was a knock on the door. And she got up. She was laying there watching VH1, trying to go to sleep, and opened the door, and she had the chain on, and there was a dark figure in the hallway blocking out the light, and a voice asked if could you hand me your bed linen, and that was a really odd question for somebody at the hotel or motel to ask it that late at night. And all of a sudden the thing shifted and the light came through, and she saw it was like a 6-foot tall cockroach.
Oh my God.
Standing on its back legs, standing in front of the door. And she screamed, and the creature asked why she was screaming, and she knew she needed to get out of there, and she was really panicked. And since that was the door she had open, she undid the chain and kicked one of its legs out from under it, and it fell. And she took off running down the hallway. And she ran past a hotel employee that was unconscious, crumpled on the floor. So she figured it had an encounter with this thing first. And she rushed out and exit, and the thing was pounding behind her. And when she got out, she slammed the door, and it broke off part of its antenna. And she said the scream was something that she had never heard before. And eventually ran outside, and there was a policeman in the parking lot. And she ran up to him and told him what happened, and she turned around enough just in time to see like 3 enormous cockroaches running over a hill behind the motel. She didn't stay there that night.
I guess not.
Well, it's a wonder she's able to drive anywhere, because she had to be kind of tipsy.
I don't know.
Did you ever see Guillermo del Toro's movie Mimic, Henry? I think maybe you should check that out.
No, I haven't. But yeah, that's possible. I mean, you can't say.
That's the thing when you check into the. That's when you check into the Franz Kafka motel. Apparently, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Cockroach Motel. Yeah, roaches check in and yeah.
Franz Kafka metamorphosis and all that.
Right. Yeah, I gotcha. I was trying to mix a Roach Motel, thing into that.
Oh, okay. I'm sure my highbrow jokes went over there.
I want to remind everybody, if you do have a question, you can private chat to Henry Forrester or Ceiling Cat, and we will get those questions answered for you. So, all right. Barbara, I know you.
Jason, Henry told Barbara and me when he said next week our guest is, he mentioned you've been a guest on the show before. Have you?
I thought you had. I couldn't.
I may have been. I've been on lots and lots and lots of shows, and I told my wife tonight that I don't remember what shows I've been on.
No. Well, I tried to find one of the podcasts from the show but I couldn't find one. So either I overlooked it or it was one that I didn't get to save. There's been a few of those, but not very many of them. And so if you hadn't been, I'm glad you're here tonight. So
Yes.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I'm having a really good time.
that's what we like to hear from guests. So, Barbara, you got, I know you got a ton of stuff, and I'm not going to hog everything from everybody tonight. So,
Or Godzilla.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I go through and I look for odd things that stick out, and one of them is from Hawaii. And I bring it up because you have a monster there named Moo,
Yes.
which happens to be my cat's name.
Yeah.
Is that MU or MOO?
MU.
It's
MU.
M
It's-
small O big O, right?
So is this Moo? MU, the vampire?
She's not a vampire, but she likes to bite.
Well, yeah, so does my cat. But we've got a MU and I've got a monster that's MOO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the MU is a vampire, which this is something that really makes me question a lot of our established history about how the world's put together and about people interacting back in ancient times, because every civilization on Earth has had ghosts in its belief system.
Right.
Bigfoot has been reported on every continent. We don't know about Antarctica because there aren't people. Are there Bigfoot? Probably not. We don't know. But even Australia has Bigfoot. It's the same with dragons. Yeah, I mean, North America, of course, South America. Let's look at Quetzalcoatl. I mean, their major deity in the Aztecs was a dragon. Dragons in Europe, dragons in Africa, dragons all throughout Asia. And this is, one of the other creatures. Well, were beings, but vampires are another one that's been reported everywhere around the world. Every culture has a vampire. And this is Hawaii's the Moo. These are 3 feet tall. They're naked. They don't have any teeth, but they have a smile that goes all the way across their face from ear to ear. They live underwater, generally in caves, and they lurk in the shadows and wait for victims to come. And they drag their prey, who come to, swim or soak their feet in the water or get a drink, and they drag them in the cave and suck on the victim until all their blood's drained. Yes, they don't have any teeth, but they give a hell of a hickey.
Wow. That's just what you need.
Right. Yeah, you come home from late at night and your wife's like, "What is that on your neck?"
Yeah.
Honey, I was attacked by a Moo. Okay. It wasn't the waitress at the bar. It was Moo.
That's pretty good.
Well, I think one of my favorite vampires is in the American coastal South. Like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, that area.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Boo Hag, and
Yep.
during the 1860s, we had Civil War, and slavery was repealed, and we had a big population of people brought over from different areas of Africa who have lived here. So they've had Christianity, and they've also got all these different cultures from Africa smushed together. And one of the creatures that was fairly common, not in the Christianity era, but in the various African cultures, was this thing they called the Boo Hag, and it's a vampire. It doesn't drink blood. It sucks energy, which a surprising number of vampires do. I say surprising because Hollywood's got us all on the blood thing.
Right.
But it can sneak into a house through any area that's small enough that a mouse could come through. and it appears as an old haggish woman with no skin. So it's red.
Oh man.
So it looks the woman from Hellraiser 2.
Right. Wow, you're pulling out the references tonight, man. Yeah.
I love movies.
Yeah, so do I. And it does like the old hag syndrome. People will wake up and there will be this hag on their chest, sucking the life out of them. And what this does is it can suck the energy, and it'll leave. It won't kill them. It'll leave because it wants to eat off of them again. I don't know what would happen if the victim's not delicious, but anyway, it comes back, and if it comes back 3 times, it will eventually kill the person on the 3rd time and peel their skin off and wear it around town.
Wow.
Well, you know what they say, all work and no play.
Yeah.
Oh, boom.
Yeah, you could see one of them sporting a new suit, right?
Right.
Skin.
Brand new birthday suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the good night things that they say in the area is don't let the boo hag ride you. We say good night up here.
Yeah, it sits on type and says it puts the lotion on its skin. And
I noticed that a lot of different states has a Thunderbird also.
Right. Which is let's go back to the Pliocene era. We were talking about the woolly mammoth. The Thunderbird is a Native American legendary bird that they call it the Thunderbird because its wings, when it beats, it makes the sound of thunder. And this thing is huge. It's got 20 to 30 foot wingspan. And it's like
Baby Rodin.
Right, that kind of size. It looks like the description is like an American condor, the California condor, and it's just enormous. And in the Pliocene era, there was a beast, or there was a bird that fit that description. It was called the Teratorn. And it's one of these things that why couldn't it have survived? It could have flown south for the winter. I mean,
Sure.
it was a long way south, but it had big wings.
And who would notice it in Florida?
Who would know? Nobody notices it in Florida. There's a TV show that's coming out called Florida Man, which discusses.
No, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so am I. I would love to be the host. I need to contact them. Well, I post Florida Man stories on my Twitter feed all the time because they're just insane. It's Florida Man. I'll get back to the Thunderbird in a second. Florida Man is so ridiculous because of Florida's absolutely wonderful advanced reporting laws. They are. It's 24 hours after an arrest happens. It's public. The newspaper can get a hold of it. The news agencies can get a hold of it. In every single other state, it's not that fast. So anything weird that happens in Florida 24 hours later, boom, it's available to the press. So whatever state anybody's listening is living in, weird stuff like that's happening to you. It's just we don't know about it.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, the Teratorn Thunderbirds have been seen on the East Coast or in New England, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Hawaii, and Alaska. There was a 12-year-old boy in Pennsylvania a number of years ago that was picked up by one of these enormous birds and lifted off the ground. And his mother ran outside screaming at the bird. A combination of that and the fact that the bird didn't have a good grip on his shoulders, it had more of his shirt, and the shirt ripped, and the kid dropped. That was fortunate because the kid lived with scratches as opposed to being eaten. I think these things could still be around. There was a few years ago in Alaska, a pilot was flying a small airplane, and he thought another airplane of his size was next to him, and he looked over, and it was a bird. The size of the plane that he was flying. And it flew next to him for a while and eventually banked off and disappeared in the distance. But yeah, there are a lot of reports of Thunderbirds around the United States.
Wow. Well, I know there is a lot that you have in here about zombies. Are they reported as sucking blood, or what are they doing?
Well, yeah, zombies are zombies. I don't. That's one of those creatures that I don't think, is going to.
Of course, nowadays zombies. You don't know whether when you say zombies, you're not talking about The Walking Dead or the people who were drugged on Haitian plantations.
Well, exactly. The Walking Dead zombies. They're most probably never going to exist. Although their counterparts in nature do, but we can get to that later. The one on Haitian plantations there are actual zombies that people can be drugged, by those who know how to do it, to the point to where they appear dead and they can be buried, and the people who've drugged them can dig them up and through drugs get them to get up on their feet and walk around and do all sorts of manual labor for them when their family thinks they're dead. And if the family sees, or family and friends see, the person they think's dead, it's a zombie, but it's not a Walking Dead zombie. It's an actual living person that's just drugged out of its brain.
Ah. So you don't have to worry about getting people together to go out and start shooting.
Damn, that would be fun, though, wouldn't it? Yeah, I've got two books, two novels, Bad Day for the Apocalypse and the sequel, Bad Day for a Road Trip, that is about what would happen if actual natural zombies, came about. And I got the idea from an article I read a few years ago about a fungus in Southeast Asia. And this fungus particularly picks on this one species of ant, and it infects them. And the ants all of a sudden, lose any sort of brain matter they had, and go up farther in the canopy to where the fungus would grow better, and then they die. The fungus sprouts out of them and flourishes, and then the fungus does this over and over and over again with the ants. So basically, the fungus turns the ants into zombies to do their bidding. And my story has to do with what would happen if the pharmaceutical industry got a hold of this and realized that, man, this fungus makes a great antidepressant. And then the antidepressant, it does so great that half the population is on it, and then all of a sudden people start growing fungus. So yeah.
Wow.
Turn it into a graphic novel, then AMC will put it on.
Does that make it?
Well, I need to do that.
Does that make it illegal then to start shooting them?
I'm not getting into the legality. I'm not a lawyer.
Oh.
Well, it's also very similar to Resident Evil almost, with the creatures in that particular living dead kind of creatures. With the fungus you have, it's almost like the pharmaceuticals from the Umbrella Corporation.
I've watched those movies. I've not played the video games, and the only reason I've watched those movies was from because of the actress who plays Alice.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
Her Fifth Element.
however you pronounce her name, or the better known for me as the foreign exchange student from the Married with Children.
I don't remember. I used to watch the show, but that's in that storyline I'm trying to remember.
Married with Children?
Yeah. I know the show, but I don't remember a foreign exchange student.
It was just one episode. It was that actress.
I never
I'm
watched
sorry.
that a
You know
whole
what?
lot.
There were obscure references dropped. I wanted to drop mine.
Cool. Well, we've touched on a couple of different monsters and monster types, but let's talk about the Pascagoula River alien.
Yes.
And you know, after my book came out, the guys who were involved in that, you know, for an anniversary, you know, came out and were, you know, reasserting the fact that, yeah, this really happened. So yeah, this is a cool story from Mississippi in the Pascagoula River. These two gentlemen, Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker Jr., were fishing, and on the river, and they saw above the water. They were fishing at night. Above the water, about 100 feet from them, an orb that was glowing. It was a glowing orb, and it started coming closer. And a noise was emitted from it, a humming, whining type noise. And then, as it got closer and closer, a hatch opened, and creatures emerged from it. They were 5 feet tall. Their heads were shaped like bullets. They didn't have any necks, and they had cones that were described as looking like carrots sticking out of their heads, and they had clawed hands. And these monsters came toward the two men and lifted them off the ground with their claws, and they floated into this orb. And while they were inside, this was you know, kind of like a Whitley Strieber communion thing. They went, you know, they underwent. I believe that was also in Fire in the Sky with Travis Walton. They underwent, you know, medical examination, and they were, after the examinations were done, the men were left on the ground, and after they were finished, you know, the guys, after they woke up and they were, you know, talking about what happened and absolutely terrified, they went to the police and told what happened, and the police interviewed them at different times. They didn't interview them together, and the guys gave the exact same story, and they were absolutely scared to death. And again, yeah, the recent recent interviews with them, they're holding by their story all these years later.
Wow. Were there any other sightings of it? Just that once?
Well, there were some other people who saw the orb, but you know, these were the guys who got abducted.
Okay.
And this was 73? When was this?
Yeah, I believe that was
October 11th, 1973. Yeah.
Yep.
No, there. You know, okay, the Pasco Gesundheit. That one.
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
There aren't that many alien. Well, I mean, I don't know if you consider Mothman or Bigfoot alien type things, but there aren't that many reports of what these creatures actually look like, other than the claws.
Right. Well, and you know, I didn't include a lot of aliens in here. I included some of the big stories because, you know, they're aliens I mean, these aliens sound like monsters. So that's why I included them. This is a strange one from 73 because still at this point, aliens were human-like. I mean, it started in the 50s with the abductee movement with Adamski and that crowd, and the human-like ones continued up until late 70s, early 80s when Strieber came out with Communion, and that's where we got our glimpse of the bubble-headed almond black-eyed aliens. So I mean, this was an odd one. It should have been more human-like, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Or giant cockroaches.
Are you saying they're aliens? I think they're from the future where the nuclear holocaust has happened, and they're the only ones who survived.
Well, if you remember the movie Them, all of those nuclear tests, could have developed giant
the big ants. That's one of my favorite 50s movies.
Yeah. That was a good one. Which I still think that anything like that could happen if they start doing a lot of that stuff around.
Well, they already have. Let's hope we have smarter people. And hey, wait a second, we don't. Never mind. I'm done. Yeah.
Now in Ohio, you talk about the Loveland frog, which we've even talked a lot about that. But you got another one there called Orange Eyes, and I have never heard of that one.
Well, this is. I mean, there are Bigfoot reports from every single state. Except for Hawaii. No Bigfoot reports out there. But, I did discover after, researching Hawaii that there's a deer problem in Hawaii. Do you know you can go deer hunting in Hawaii? The deer are there because people who originally moved out there, Americans, wanted to go deer hunting, so they imported deer. Now they're a problem.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, there's no Bigfoot out there, so we didn't bring those with us. But yeah, Orange Eyes is a Bigfoot. At Charles Mill Lake Reservoir, this was in 1963. A lot of witnesses at different times saw what they described as an 11-foot tall ape-like creature with eyes that glowed red when the lights hit them. Now, I've heard of a lot of 8 and 9 foot tall Bigfoot, but 11-foot tall.
That's huge.
Is enormous.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was reported around the reservoir. There was a highway that came through in the 1940s. It didn't appear until the 1940s when the highway came through, and people speculated that it was disturbed. Its
habitat,
where it lived was disturbed. Its habitat was disturbed. And,
wow, which is probably true.
Which could have happened, and the last time people saw it was in 1991, and it hasn't been seen then. It's seen since. But one of the things about Bigfoot that not a lot of people talk about is the fact that animals migrate, and why wouldn't Bigfoot? I read a piece. I don't remember the author, but he was investigating. Animals in it was in California. He was investigating animals and their migration patterns, comparing that to Bigfoot sightings. And what this guy discovered was that game, deer and the like, whenever, and including rabbits of all things, whenever they migrated away from one area to another, Bigfoot encounters in the area where they migrated from went down. Bigfoot encounters in the area they migrated to went up, which would make perfect sense. If Bigfoot's out there, it needs something to eat.
Yep.
Why? And it would, human beings follow, when we were hunter-gatherers, we followed the migration patterns. And there are also, and this is another type of Bigfoot, we've talked about Bigfoot a lot, I hope you don't mind, Bigfoot migratory pattern that I've noticed along the Mississippi River. In the early 1970s, there was a number of Bigfoot sightings in Missouri on the eastern side of what was called Momo, the Missouri Monster. And it left three-toed footprints, which I find, I don't know why I should find anything about Bigfoot bizarre, but I find this kind of bizarre. In Arkansas, in the 70s, there were also Bigfoot encounters with the F-O-U-K-E monster,
right,
which was made into the movie Legend of Boggy Creek. It had three toes. South of that, in Louisiana, we had the Honey Island Swamp Monster, also left three-toed footprints. So if there's a species of three-toed Bigfoot, well, it could follow the Missouri River. It could be, the same animals going up and down the Missouri River and just being, seen in different spots.
Could be, yep. I know in Louisiana, and I've heard the name before, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. They have the Rougarou.
Right. This is the Well, and this is another thing. When people move, they bring things with them. They when people immigrated to the United States, when they still do, they not only bring change clothing, maybe a photo album, a couple of antiques, food for the trip, whatever. They also bring their stories. They bring their language. They bring their songs. They bring their history. They also bring their monsters. We have a number of places in the United States where there are banshee legends. Well, I mean, that's an Irish creature.
Mm-hmm.
The blue guru is the same. It is French for werewolf, and it is reported in Louisiana. It's also reported in Quebec. But in Louisiana, this is generally a creature that appears to be a beggar or a really handsome man, one of the two, who wanders the outskirts of New Orleans and tries to get people to go places with it. And if the person does, the thing turns into a wolf and attacks them. If the person doesn't come with them, they just try other prey. But this is the French werewolf.
Well, that's pretty interesting then. Not that I'd go looking for it.
Well, no, werewolves are kind of creepy. Which, I mean, and that's another thing that I can understand the history of the werewolf, because in Europe, you find things. I mean, you're scared of things that actually can hurt you. And, for a while when people were, chopping trees down and start, farming, wolves were a huge problem. And that's where the legend of the werewolf came from. And again, we brought it over here. And with all the sightings of the dog man, maybe it was here already.
Could have been.
Well, we can't let you go without talking about the cutest little critter, I think, on your book, and that is the squonk.
You know what? I'm not sure if cute is the way to describe it. The squonk is horrible, but it's sad. Yeah. It's like a guinea pig with no fur, crying all the time. I feel sorry for it already. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a Pennsylvania monster, and Pennsylvania's got more than its share of creepy crawlies. But in Pennsylvania, in the forest land, there's a beast that is called the squonk, and it's like a pig. It's basically a pig, but it's got really saggy skin. Like, what's the dog with all the folds and the
Shar-Pei?
Shar-Pei.
Yeah, Shar-Pei. It's like a pig Shar-Pei covered in warts. So this pig Shar-Pei hides in the woods, and it's lonely because, it's a pig Shar-Pei with warts, and it cries. And if somebody hears something crying in the woods, it's the squonk. And if they come to get it, if they go to try and find the squonk, all they find is a pool of water, which is they say is tears. There was one man named William Cox. He wrote a book called Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods, and he told a story about a man named J.P. Wentling who snuck up on a squonk. And he had a potato sack that he snagged the thing in and threw it over his shoulder and started walking home because he wanted to show everybody the squonk. And he didn't notice until it was too late that the sack kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And finally, when he got home, he opened the sack, and it was just a wet bag. So the squonk cried itself into nothingness.
Ew.
Wow.
I see. It's just like a cryptid. What's the donkey's name in Woody and Pooh? Eeyore. Yeah.
Eeyore. Yeah. Well, my personal favorite, being a New Jerseyan, is of course down in the Pine Barrens, and you know about the Jersey Devil, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, the Jersey Devil. Well, I mean, it actually has some history behind it. The Pine Barrens in New Jersey. Yeah, the word barrens. I mean, it's Pine Barrens. That just sounds horrible. Sounds scary.
The place looks like a blasted heath. It looks like a nuclear bomb had taken out all the foliage and white sand around the trees. It's just a really creepy place to begin with.
Yeah, people early on, really early on, tried to they tried to build villages there, and they tried to put farms there, and the ground there is so acidic that crops won't grow. And there are very few things that grow. I mean, pitcher plants grow there. Poisonous plants grow there. So things that will kill you grow there.
So sort of like Australia.
Yeah, everything in Australia wants you dead. No offense to our friends listening in Australia.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So, yeah,
foliage.
this it didn't work for human habitation, and there's still, ruins, not houses, but you can see foundations, rock foundations of where the houses were. But way back, I think it was in the late 1600s, possibly, a family that lived there, the Leeds family, the mother was having having a baby, and this was her 13th child. Mm-hmm. And while she was pregnant with this child, she didn't want to have it because she already had 12 kids, and this was an unlucky 13. And she said, when this child is born, it'll be a devil. Which you probably shouldn't say while you're pregnant, but she gave birth to the baby, and a midwife helped her, give birth, and the baby looked normal at first, and shortly after its birth, by shortly I mean minutes, its head turned into the head of a horse. It grew bat wings. Its arms and legs were now ended in hooves. It had horns. It had a tail, a serpent-like tail. The first thing it did in life was kill its midwife, kill the midwife who brought it to life, and then disappeared up the chimney. And for not just years but centuries, this thing has been seen. It's it was seen in the in the late 1800s in Pennsylvania. It's not confined just to the Pine Barrens. It
goes into eastern Pennsylvania on times.
Yeah. So firefighters tried to knock it off the top of a burning building. People have shot at it. One of the most famous sightings of the Jersey Devil was by Napoleon Bonaparte's brother.
Oh. Wow.
He moved to New Jersey from France, and he claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil.
I would have thought Elba would have been better, but
Yeah, and it made for a really horrible X-Files episode.
Wow.
But yeah, in the first season, Carter actually came to a convention, and I got on the mic for the Q&A. I said, "Have you ever considered doing a Jersey Devil episode?" He says, "Well, we did." I'm like, "No, I mean the Jersey Devil. I don't know what the heck you were doing."
Yeah. They did a horrible one over the Chupacabra as well, and it was they did one in Kansas City. They were promoting it. They were doing one in Kansas City, and all the license plates were from Kansas.
Wow.
For anybody listening out there, Kansas City's in Missouri.
Right. It sure is. Yep.
And Kansas. I've been to both.
Well, but there's nothing there in Kansas City, Kansas. When you think of Kansas City, it's in Missouri. The barbecue, the sports franchises.
Yep.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Well, you got one from Vermont, and its name is just straight awful.
Yes, well, that's one of my favorite ones because it includes one of my favorite horror authors, The Awful.
The Awful.
Yeah, The Awful. Come on, that is fantastic. There's a town called Richford, which is really near the Canadian border. And this was in the early 1900s, and a couple of guys were crossing a bridge and saw this thing staring at them from the rooftop of a building. It had gray skin, the tail that looked like a serpent's. It looked like a griffin. It had wings and looked like a lion. Had enormous claws. And huge teeth. And they, turn around and walk back across the bridge because they didn't want to have anything to do with it. But this thing was seen a number of different times. by people. It flied around. It flied over fields. A farm wife named Oella Hopkins was hanging up laundry, and her dog started to bark. And she was looking around to see what was, upsetting the dog. And the offal was sitting on a nearby rooftop. And she screamed and ran and, went into the house and hid under the bed until her husband came home. But this thing was reported a number of different times and, made the press enough that H.P. Lovecraft in 1925 went to the town of Richfield to talk to people, talk to the local people about the offal. And, that really helped, that's the sort of thing he wrote about in his horror stories. So I love that, not just because of the name, but just because also because it involved Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft wrote some good books. Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them are very, very weird and technically unfilmable, but some have been made pretty well.
At the Mountains of Madness can be filmed. I just hope it happens someday.
Oh, that would be awesome. And they've been working on making. Guillermo del Toro was trying to make Mountains of Madness
for years. For years, he's been trying to, and it hasn't happened. And I still have my fingers crossed.
Now, have you ever seen the silent version movie of Call of Cthulhu?
Whoa! I didn't know that existed.
It was made by a film company in Burbank about 7 years ago, done in black and white, silent, like German expressionistic, like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
All right, yeah.
My friend, a filmmaker friend of mine, actually made it, and he had made his own film based on Thing on the Doorstep. But when I went to the convention, the H.P. Lovecraft convention up in Seattle, or rather Portland, they showed Call of Cthulhu. I'm like,
Jeff.
Hello?
Jeff, did you go somewhere? Yeah, he falls off from time to time, so apparently that happened.
Oh, I fell off again, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the link to the information on that, and it is so well done. And it's, like I say, it's done like it was filmed at the time Lovecraft wrote it, like a 1920s set silent movie.
Yeah, I love German expressionism films. The moodiness is unparalleled.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, they got another one from Nebraska, and I thought it kind of funny, but it's called Phantom Kangaroos.
No, this isn't funny at all. This is something that's seen worldwide. Kangaroos, of course, they're Australian.
Right.
They're only in Australia. Now, admittedly, there's a kangaroo population in France because a group of kangaroos got away from a collection and they started a colony.
Yeah.
So there are kangaroos in France, but there are phantom kangaroo reports all over the world. This one in Nebraska was in 1958. Charles V. Wetzel, he was fishing. He was fishing on the Platte River and looked over and wow. Well, first he thought it was a deer running through the underbrush, and a kangaroo popped out. It was it had the big back legs. It was leaping. And it bounced away. It ran by him and bounced away. He was obviously in shock. What the hell was that? Was this a kangaroo in Nebraska? But it was reported by the Associated Press. There have been sightings all over North America, the United Kingdom, Japan, Poland. There are kangaroos. A lot of times these kangaroos will bounce across the highway and vanish as they're bouncing across the highway in front of a car. But it's weird. Why kangaroos? Yeah, that's the strange part. I get the ghost, and I would get it if it was the ghost of a cow, because it's Nebraska.
Right.
But kangaroos, that's a strange one.
Wow.
So these are kangaroo ghosts.
I don't know. They might be dimension hopping kangaroos.
Oh, dimension. Wow.
I'm just throwing that out there.
You can never know.
That's right. Well, we're running just about out of time. Got another one.
Well, and number one, we got to have you back because I'm looking at your book list, and you also have a book on how to kill monsters.
Yes,
really?
Yes, I do. How to kill monsters using common household items.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to have you back for that then.
Well, I mean, we're talking about monsters now. We have to talk about how to kill them at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, I guess you could call this me setting people up by having a book on monsters and then one about how to kill them. But how to kill monsters came out first.
That was the only way you was able to survive to be able to write this one.
Darn straight.
Well, I mean,
good.
and the idea is that there's plenty of things around the house to kill a monster with.
You know what? If a monster comes into my house right now, I have within 4 feet of me half a dozen things I could use to defend myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess the rest of the people need to know that too.
Right. And I'm not talking about, I don't have guns lying around. I don't have machetes lying around. I'm talking about things that, like in the kitchen. Let's say you're in the kitchen and a monster comes in. Tumping over the garbage bin is beautiful, especially if you have one of those old-fashioned can openers that, takes the top off a can.
Right.
You know what stepping on a tuna can lid will do to your foot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's very sharp.
If a werewolf comes into your house, if you're worried about werewolves at all, you need to own a cat, or as I like to call that, a werewolf distraction device.
Uh-huh.
Just toss the cat at the werewolf, and you've got at least 15 seconds to do something else.
Okay,
Wow.
disclaimer here. No monsters or cats were harmed in the making of the show.
This time.
My cat is upstairs cuddling on the couch.
Yeah.
This time. Wait till the next book, though. Well, excuse me. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. Even though we was having some technical difficulties to start the show, we got everything worked out and got everybody on. So we appreciate that. This is Jason Offutt. I'm going to give you a few minutes here to tell people how they can get your books, how they can follow you, and all the good stuff.
All right. Yeah. I've got I got a website. It's Jason Offutt, JasonOffutt.com. I've got how to get a hold of me on there. I've got all my books. I've got links to all the shows I've been on, TV and radio and podcast. I've got I got a blog that I update sometimes. A lot of times with either writing advice or something that I've written. So yeah, you can basically everything Jason is right there. All my books are also available at Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So yeah, that's me. If anybody's got a story you want to tell me, just get a hold of me.
Oh, there you go. See? That wasn't hard at all. Well, next time that we do get you on, we should have everything set up now on Skype, and we'll get you on time and going.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, I hope you're not blaming me because I'm not blaming you on that. Skype has just been awful recently.
Skype has. Well, see, I sent a request to Jason Offutt from Missouri. So apparently they didn't go through, or it was the wrong one. I don't know.
Either one.
You have a doppelganger in.
Yeah.
There's another monster.
I
Don't
guess
scare
so.
me. That's a chapter in my Kill Monster books.
Uh-oh.
Your evil twin, chapter 12. Yes.
Exactly. Actually, I think it's 14, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, there is tons of stuff in this book here that we didn't even come close to covering. It's well written, and we didn't even talk about some of the states and everything about them. So you need to get this book and read it. It's not a thin book. It's I don't know, about an inch thick, something like that. So there's a lot of reading to it, and it's very interesting. I think you'd really like this.
Well, thank you. And you know, about the book and the way I've got it set up is it's a toilet reader.
Right.
Whoa.
I've got it set up to where you know there's lots of easy stopping places.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a great bedtime storyteller for our kids. You know, that's the monster for tonight. Sleep tight.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't hold a connection.
We're just about time to jump off, and I want you to stay on for a few minutes till after we're off, and then we'll talk with you and thank you.
All right, will do. Thanks again for having me on the show.
All right, Jeff, you got to go quick. Jeff's not
and
here.
he fell off again. So,
Yeah.
folks, you can find all of our information on the Paranormal View website. It's paranormalview.com, I believe.
Yes, that's where it's at.
Or you can go to the Paranormal or the ParaX website and take a look there.
All right. Till then, this is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gold.
And Barbara Duncan.
And we'll see you next week at the same time. So good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.